Hi guys, it's Poober here and welcome to episode 28, where today we are going to kick off the start of the mega base. So what do I have planned for the mega base? Well, I am now 63 rockets launched, and at this point my science has kind of stalled. It is not only getting a little bit more expensive as we research, but secondly, I also don't have the big enough science factory that I need to really efficiently research what I want to. We're still dealing with the mid-game science factory that I built several episodes ago, and while this has done a great job, it does do over 1 science pack per second. I think when it's fully up and running, I think I've seen it as high as like 80 for a lot of the science packs here. But at this point, my tech tree is requiring thousands of the science packs. And of course, for the research that I really care about, like the worker robot speed and the mining productivity, those are even more expensive. The mining productivity, I'm on level 22, and the worker robot speed level 9, but I would like to get that even higher. So at this point, what that means is I really have to start thinking about going much bigger for all of my factories and doing mega factories for a lot of things that I have never done factories on a mega scale for before. What I mean by that are things like the iron gear wheels and inserters, miners, pipes, things that I've never really built mega for are all going to come together to build science packs, hopefully on a much grander scale. So with that said, let's go ahead and get this process started. I think step 1 will ultimately be to create a new octagon. We'll probably end up doing 2, but I think we'll start with putting in the first one over here to the left. So I'm going to fill in this land here and then see you guys in just a second once that's done. So here was the before, and here's the after. So not only did I add in the landfill like I talked about in the previous clip, but I ended up adding in not 1 but 2 new octagons, which makes this a whole brand new shape for the entire base. Instead of just these 3 main octagons, we now have 5 total, plus the little squares in the middle of the octagons, which I have plans for in the future. And I even added in a ton of pathway through all of the octagons there, so now that is all installed. In total, we started the episode with 63 rockets launched, and in the time it took me to get all of this work done, I am now up to 117 rockets launched, which is almost double what I was at the start of the episode. So obviously I got a lot of work done, and it took me quite a while. Thanks to you guys who joined me for this stream for getting a lot of this done. It was a lot of fun having you guys around. Again, if you're not a follower of my Twitch channel yet, feel free to do so by clicking to the Twitch channel link down below, or you can see my Twitch handle over here to the right-hand side. But with that said, enough of this busy work. Now I want to get to work actually putting stuff in the octagons themselves. So what do I have planned for those? I think I want to start by getting some of the new mega circuit factories installed. So we'll start with that upper left-hand octagon over here. Well, I made it over here to the top left octagon, and you can tell from all of this kind of dark green color, this all used to be water, and it literally took thousands upon thousands and thousands and a lot of patience and waiting to get all of this landfill placed. But the hard part is done. Now the fun part just comes with actually being able to place down some new blueprints. So I think my plan, initially at least for this octagon, is to make it a new circuit octagon, or at least that's what I'm going to consider this one is going to be for new circuit factories. I think we can at least do that for half of it, or at least part of this octagon, and maybe make room for other factories if we have room left over. But the first factory I have in mind is a green circuit factory, which I developed in my creative world. So let's take a look at the blueprint here for starters before we actually place it. So this is what I came up in my test world, and what I had in mind was getting a lot of beacon coverage, and I think this does the job. Between the beacons and the actual modules that will go inside the assemblers, we should get, I believe it's 12 entities providing coverage for the assemblers, which is a decent amount. I think you can get up to about 12 entities if they were all in a row, but this is a little bit different than other green circuit factories I've seen in the past. And I have done the math on this. I think this does over 7,000 green circuits per minute, if I'm remembering correctly. I'll have to double check once we actually get this installed. But the point is that it should do a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently than my previous green circuit factories that I have back at the main octagon. And the nice thing about this is we can essentially duplicate it as many tiles as we need, as long as we have the correct amount of inputs. So the other way I had this design in mind is the inputs themselves. So obviously we're going to need copper plate to feed the copper wire assembler machines, and then we're going to need iron plate to feed into the green circuit assemblers themselves. So this should be 6 columns wide, and that means we can have basically 6 full blue belts of both copper plate and iron plate that can feed into these columns. So that's convenient because we can have basically a train unload 6 blue belts per cargo wagon, which should hopefully feed into this perfectly. We'll have to double check once we actually get a train station set up, but that's kind of how I have it in mind. So I think with that said, let's go ahead and start figuring out where we're going to put this thing. Let me zoom out here, because there's no way I could plan it and get it precisely where I want to unless I had this InfiniZoom mod, which comes in very handy. So let's grab the blueprint here. I think one thing I want to keep in mind is probably continuity by keeping kind of the input railway that will go top to bottom like we have on the octagon here to the bottom and the bottom right as well. So that will be kind of our throughway, or where the trains go to come into the octagon and leave before getting onto the main track. So we'll want to plan for the green circuit factory to be on either side of that. We can't put it straight in the middle. And then in terms of how many of these that I want tiled, I'm not 100% sure yet. I think end game wise, I probably want to plan on at least 4 rockets per minute. But again, I don't have that totally concrete, and I haven't done all the math to determine exactly how many green circuits I'll need to get that ratio. But I know I'm going to have to at least tile this probably several times, and I imagine probably close to 30 blue belts worth of green circuits. I'm not entirely sure. But with that said, we have at least 6 blue belts worth that we can get from this one factory alone, so we can at least start with that. Oh boy, where do I put it? Maybe the first thing I should do is put in the railway. That way I know for sure exactly how far on either side of the railway I can go. And then I should probably get rid of these trees. I would like to avoid clutter if possible. And then let's just put in the track. I might have to request a little bit more, but that's okay. And I think just in terms of how my brain works from like left to right, I think of that in terms of like order for the green circuits as well. So green circuits are obviously the most basic of the circuits. So I think we'll have green on the left, and then maybe we'll have another green circuit factory feed directly into red circuits so that we don't have to steal directly from only one or a section of the green circuits. We can have green circuit factories solely supplying the red circuits. And we can have maybe that on the left-hand side, and then maybe we can devote the right-hand side of this belt line to blue circuits or something. That again is also not a concrete plan, but it's at least something I can consider. So I do need more belt, but at least now I have an idea of where exactly my reference point is. And let's zoom out again. So now you can see the new train tracks in the middle here. So I could technically fit this as close as right there and still have room, but I do have to keep in mind that I need to make plenty of room for the train tracks themselves for unloading and loading of the products needed for the green circuits, and then loading of the green circuits into a train themselves. So I may want to think about an orientation more like this. And I may want to do a junction here where we, instead of just doing it like left to right hemisphere almost, we do quadrants. So we might want to do another train track system going left to right so we can have just a different orientation for the unloading and the loading sections. I'm kind of just thinking out loud because I know I need products in and products out, but I still want to at least tile this several times. So the best way to do that might be to orient it this way. I'm going to go ahead and think about this a little bit off camera, and then I'll be back once the blueprint is placed. And here is the green circuit factory now mostly complete. I'm standing in one of now 4 green circuit factories that I have got done installing. Let me zoom out a little bit here so you can see in greater detail what I'm talking about. So these other 3 are still kind of blinking with the lights on because I don't have electricity fully hooked up into these yet. But the one I'm standing here to the bottom left section is actually done for the most part. It turned out really well. It's obviously making use of a ton of beacons, a ton of modules between the speed 3 modules in the beacons and then productivity 3s in the assemblers for the most part, although I also am making use of actually efficiency 3 modules in the copper wire assemblers. I did notice in my test roll that actually having all 4 filled with productivity module 3s was actually too much. It was staying idle for too long, so it wasn't really making use of that. So I figured, why not at least take out half of them and put in some efficiency modules instead to make up for a little bit of the electricity used. So we'll see how that works out, but in the meantime, let me explain first of all how the train unloader system will work. So over here I have, or at least I'm planning on having, my own separate logistic network consisting in these robo-bays here. Obviously that is not a separate network already because you can see it's connected between these robo-bays and the main logistic network, like from this robo-bay and this one over here. So I am going to have to remedy that a little bit before I can fully get this implemented. What I plan on doing is probably getting rid of these robo-bays for now, like this one over here and this one that's in the main network. I just figure that's a small sacrifice I have to pay to be able to use bots for the unloading system. Now, why am I using bots versus solely belts for unloading? The reason for that, even though I am not having the bots carry much from a long space, it's very short amount of space actually, just from basically the active providers to the requester boxes right nearby. The reason is because I needed to save on space. Now I noticed when I did try to come up with a belt solely based supply of my materials, I didn't quite have enough room to fit the amount of factories I wanted in the limited space I have of this octagon. So that's kind of where I came up with this compromise. It's kind of a compromise between belt-based and bot-based. So I'll end up seeing how that works once we turn it on. This underground belt and box setup that you see here is actually something that I saw on Catherine of Sky's videos. So hopefully it turns out really well, but credit goes to her for this design. But eventually I'll be having my trains come in and deliver the plate into these train stations nearby. This one here I believe I have for iron plate. The one more towards the middle is for the copper plate. I actually have trains ready to go, so they come up into these stackers here off of the main rail system. So they come from this kind of intersection and then feed off of that into 2 separate train stackers. So this one here actually feeds into the copper plate and iron plate unloading train stations. So these will share the different materials. But this bottom stacker is solely for trains that will pick up the green circuits in terms of having the green circuits loaded into the train cargo wagons. How I am able to keep them separate is that they are on 2 separate lines, so they never actually have to share the same line, although they do intersect at this point here and right there. So that's how I was able to get that to work. The green circuit train will come in here to pick up its resources, although I haven't quite perfected how I'm going to be doing the loading for the green circuits here yet. I can't quite decide on whether to do a solely bot delivery or belt, or maybe a mixture. So that's kind of why this is looking unfinished for now. But I figure I don't have anywhere for the green circuits to go quite yet because I don't have any other Megabase factories that will require it. So that's why I figure I can kind of continue to be patient and stall on finishing this one. But that means in the meantime, we can at least turn this on, make sure it works, and make sure it's actually working as efficiently as I'm hoping it should. As I mentioned earlier, this should do 6 blue belts worth of green circuits that are fully compressed. So that would be awesome to see. So that means between all 4 of these separate green circuit factories, I will have 24 fully compressed blue belts worth of green circuits, which is more green circuits than I've ever had available, I think, at any time in my previous Factorio playthroughs. So I think I just have to do a couple other things. Let me go ahead and get rid of this RoboBay here. That way we don't accidentally share the network. It looks like I'm going to have to get rid of this one up here as well. And I will just replace these with the accumulators and things like that I have. I think I actually also have a couple solar panels, so this will get filled in. There we go, and I have way too much on me, but that's okay. Whew. And I have to get rid of this one and that one, maybe. It'd be nice if I can keep that one. But let's hover over this. So now this is its own private logistic network, which means I can go ahead and place the logistic bots that I have on hand in it. I'm going to supply it with, I think, yeah, just however much fills that for now, which is 350? Yeah, 350. And I'm actually now at worker robot speed 10. That's how far I've researched just with my very primitive science setup. It's taken me quite a while just to research that, and I've at this point now launched 208 rockets total. Just remember at the beginning of the episode we were at like 63 rockets launched total, so I've made a lot of progress in terms of getting rockets launched, but I'm really looking forward to being able to get a little bit more efficient with science research in the near future. But now that I have 350 in this system, I am somehow, oh, I'm looking at the bottom right, I'm somehow over that amount. So I must have already had bots in this robotic setup to begin with before I realized it. So let me pull out, yep, I do. I have construction robots somehow. Man, let me just get rid of those. Get rid of all the construction bots because they should not be needed here. Although I suppose I could keep a couple on hand with maybe some repair packs just in case something were to happen, but I can worry about that later. So now I have 500 logistic robots in here, which I don't think I need that many. And my inventory is way too full, so let me just kind of get rid of some stuff for now. Let's again, we'll just limit this to what is in the bottom RoboBay. So now I'm actually under, oh, that's because now it should be perfect. No, 365. I don't know how I keep on getting the wrong amount. Oh, that's why I missed one. Okay, now am I at 350? Yes, okay. Now I am at exactly 350 logistic robots in this RoboBay, and that will get dispersed among the active provider boxes and the requester boxes. They don't have a very long way to travel, so hopefully it should be efficient, especially with the speed 10 bonus that they have on them. So I think that means we can go ahead and turn this on now. These trains are already set to go to the respected train stops up here, so I just have to get rid of that. Get rid of that. And then you can see it's obviously unloading. And the reason why you don't see the bots going crazy yet is because I actually don't have any conditions set on the requester chests. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, but let me make sure this train... Uh-oh. This train, I think, was supposed to go to the station where I'm at. Okay, that's not a big deal. Hold on, hold on. Pause a minute here. I think I wanted this train station to be copper. Yes. This station should be iron, which it is, so I wonder why that train... Oh, because it's set to copper. Let me fix that real quick. Inventory empty. Okay, there we go. So now that train should go to the right train station. So we can set this piece right back in there. So now this one should come back to the train stop. And then this one should go back to the train stop. Good, that is working as intended. Now I just have to set the conditions to the boxes here. So the boxes to the kind of far left, or the side closest to the wagons, are for copper plate, and the boxes closer to the middle are for iron plate. So I just have to make sure I keep that in mind. Let's start with a condition of, I don't know, 200. However much it takes to supply or to compress the belts. And then let's set the condition for the iron plate. And you can tell it's already beginning to work, and it's looking mostly compressed, so maybe I can request a little bit more than 200 at a time, or maybe I need more bots. I'm not 100% sure. There we go. So you can see how the plates are distributed onto the belts here. We're getting to the respected rows of green circuit assemblers, and you can see we're already getting some results. The products are coming in through the end. Wow, that is looking crazy fast. That is awesome. I think we can improve the efficiency. Yeah, I mean, looking at the iron plate belt line, we obviously need to increase the compression of that, I think, by a little bit, which we could do by adding in either maybe another box for the requester boxes, or I don't know, requesting more at a time, maybe 300 or so. But either way, I think that is a really, really good start. I wish these boxes were not mixed between copper and iron, but that will get sorted out eventually. But hey, we finally saw this turned on. So now that we know that it works, I think I'm going to go ahead and we're going to end episode 28 at this point. I think off camera, I'm probably going to work on perfecting the green circuit loading area and working out a couple little kinks that I've noticed here and there. And who knows, maybe I'll even do a live stream where you guys can join me for that. Again, if you want to do so, my handle is over here to the right-hand side, and you can follow me on Twitch. But for now, we're going to go ahead and call this with episode 28, and I hope you'll stick around for episode 29 and my streams here to come.